Hello! So Microsoft has released the next famous flyer for Microsoft Flight Simulator. This is the C-47 Douglas Dakota, the workhorse, you might say, of the Allied forces during the Second World War and many years after the war. So if we go and have a look around the aircraft, you can see it's essentially very, very similar to the DC-3, but there are differences, most of which you will see. For example, we have obviously some people inside, like paratroopers. We can drop paratroopers, and you can see there are some differences in the 3D modeling. So you've got these, I'm guessing they're flame suppressors, are they, on the exhausts? Something like that. I'm not a specialist on the C-47, so I'm no doubt people will fill me in on the details about things in the comments. So you can see the modelling of the engine blocks is really, really nice, and the texturing and modelling of the propellers as well. So if we just go and have a look around the undercarriage as well, just to see the quality of the modelling around the aircraft, it is very, very good. Look up in the bay. So everything's modelled really nicely and weathered, and yeah, it's hard to fault really. So if we come up and have a look towards the cockpit, you can see we've got custom pilots, just as we have custom figures in the back of the aircraft as well. Nice pair of aviators there. It's nicely done, isn't it? So if we just scoot around towards the tail, just have a look at it. You see there's a few little weaknesses here and there in the textures, but nothing serious. I'm not quite sure how this texture works in terms of or what it's supposed to be representing, because this is the airdrop version. So maybe that'll become more obvious when the door opens while we're in flight. So if we come into the aircraft, into the cabin, so we can have a look around at the figures inside. Obviously they're not animated at this point, but you can look down here, and these doors are obviously going to open when we're in flight, so we'll see that happen. There's a switch in the cockpit that activates the troop drop. There's a navigator station. It's really nicely done with some maps. No doubt they are the historic airdrop maps for the paratroopers during the D-Day landings. There's various bits of hardware modelled around the aircraft. Obviously you've got some navigation kit up there. If we come round into the cockpit, you can see it has been improved upon since it originally came out as the DC-3, and there's some specialist hardware in here that the military version, I guess, had, like some accurate radios overhead. It still has the gyro pilot that it had before, and that seems to work nicely. So full disclosure, I have had a quick fly of it just to make sure to update my checklist, so I have got a new version of the checklist for this aeroplane because it is slightly different. And there do appear to have been some simplifications along the way in terms of the start procedure, but I'll talk about those when we work through it. Okay, so if you look down, there is a fire suppression system underneath the floor. You can lift that panel up. I'm in drone camera at the moment though, so I'm not going to try and interact with it. You can see behind the pilots, everything's been modelled really wonderfully. It's very, very cool. Okay, let's just jump out through the window, put the drone camera to one side, and we'll take it for a fly. We are at Duxford, by the way. So we're at if you've never seen the Duxford scenery, just before we go and fly it, you will see there is I think, is it a Hurricane or a Spitfire hanging around over there? Let's quickly fly over on the entrance. Okay, there's a Hurricane. Yeah, so Duxford is modelled really nicely. This is for a free scenery, by the way. You can download this from flightsim.to. There is an air show variant of this scenery as well, where you have crowds along the grass. Okay, so I'm going to put the drone camera off to one side now, and we're going to go and press the insert key to go back inside, and we're going to work through the checklist together. So I'm really validating my changes to the checklist to suit the C-47, so we'll see how we get on. So first things first, we're going to go and turn the ground power to on. We're going to go and put the position lights to on. We're going to go down to the fuel selectors, and they're down either side of the pedestal here. We're going to go left main on the left selector and right main on the right selector. And then we're going to check the lever positions. So we want the mixture levers fully forwards, they already are. We want the propeller levers fully forward, they already are. We want to crack open the throttles. And if we needed to at this point, we would perform pushback. We don't need to. We're just sat in the parking area here at Duxford, facing the flight line anyway. So we're going to prepare to start the engines. So we're going to go and turn on the beacon lights. We're then going to go and center our view up to do this next few operations. So we can see everything in the one view, and you get to see what I'm seeing, and hopefully it'll make a little bit of sense. It's worth pointing out before we start the engines that it does appear they've dumbed this down a bit, which is very common with the Asobo associated aircraft. I think this was developed by Airplane Heaven, but I think it's been dumbed down in terms of the start sequence. So I think it's just accessibility, really. Asobo like to include as much of the audience as they can, and if this was too onerous to get it started, it would be, horrible. So there are things like a quick start switch over here, which will just start the engines. You've got a cold start, I think that is, and then in here is the jump switch. So there are some shortcuts built into the cockpit, but we'll go through and have a look at how it should have worked and what we should do. So to get started, we need to make sure this button is pushed in. This is the master ignition button. We're going to put the boost pumps on. Again, we don't actually hear anything. Whether we should, I'm not sure. So we'll start the right engine first. So you've got energize here. This is a flywheel. So if we go to right, a flywheel will start spinning round inside the right engine. And then when we mesh it, it will grab and turn the radial engine over. Okay, so we'll leave that spinning for a while. It's not going to hurt anything spinning. We're going to put the magnetos for the right engine to... Actually, no, we need to go mesh. I'm going to talk this through first. We're going to go mesh, then magnetos, then the right primer. Okay, so mesh, magnetos, right primer. Now, if we look outside, you'll see it's going to be very odd. Oh, there we go, look. So somebody, I think, has messed up somewhere. And then we get the engines. Okay, so we can do the same again for the left engine. We can energize left, so we flick this switch up. We leave it there for a few moments, that's spinning up that flywheel, remember. So wait for a few seconds for it. Then we're going to go mesh on, magnetos, primer. Okay, so mesh, magnetos, primer. If you look outside, you'll see it suddenly stop and then kick into action. There it goes. So like I said, it's a very simplified routine, and I've played around with it a little bit. I think as long as the switches are in the right positions, the engine will start. So there's no real timing involved or monitoring it too much as you're working through the procedure. Okay, so having started the engines, we can turn the booster pumps off. We can turn the ground power off now. We can put the battery on, and we can go and tune the radios if we wish to. So we're not obviously going to be using the radios today. They're very straightforward. So you've got the integers and the decimals. It works the same both sides. So integers, decimals. You can choose the frequency ranges, and yeah, everything just works, you know, as you would expect a radio of this era. It's very basic. As I mentioned, I think I mentioned earlier, it's got a Sperry gyro pilot, so you've got master power there. You've got then trim control. It's worth pointing out though, to give power to the Sperry, you have to go and meddle with this lever at the back of the cockpit, and it gives you some instruction there. So you need to click on it, and yeah, so in the back position is your takeoff position, and then the forward position is the gyro pilot position. Yeah, so the gyro pilot won't work unless this is pulled forwards. So for takeoff we need to have it back, so that's all good. So we've got engines running. So there is a tail wheel control down here underneath. If we press Control and 4, there's a view that comes down here. So it's here, look. If you push it towards the bulkhead, it means the tail wheel is fixed. If you pull it away, it means the tail wheel is free to caster. Okay, that's all you really need to know about that. Okay. So we're going to taxi out. So let's go and put the head tracking on. Try and get it right. Did I put the head tracking on? Yeah, I did. Just trying to center it up so it makes some sense. Okay. So we do have some lights out here, so we'll go and put the landing lights on just for fun so we can have a look at them. So let's go and have a look at that from outside. You can see the landing lights are huge actually. Just creeping forwards. Just looking at some of the other lights. So we've got pitot heat over there as well. Okay. Right, let's ease this out onto the grass. We can undo the windows. So we'll taxi down past the static displays here at Duxford, then we'll pull out onto the grass and take off from the grass, because that's a bit more in keeping with this aircraft, to be honest. And if you're wondering about why you are so close and why you have to look down, if you to see the instruments, if you've ever been inside a real DC-3 or C-47, the pilots are almost stood against the instrument panel, or you know, they're these little tiny bench seats. You can see this guy here. So you really are crammed in. And seeing that pilot there doesn't give you really any sense of just how crammed in you are. There wasn't much room to move around. Okay, so we don't need flaps for takeoff. Just pulling out onto the grass strip here at Duxford. And we see how we get on. So it's worth pointing out I didn't look at the cowl flap settings. By default the cowl flaps are open. So the tail wheel will come up any moment. There it goes. Give it a boot full of rudder when that happens, and then equal it back out again to maintain attitude. And pull back gently, and we're in the air. So if we have a look from outside, we'll put the gear up now so you get to see the animation for that. You can see it's starting to turn. The torque is having some effect there. There might be a bit of a crosswind going on as well. there's our grass strip that we took off from. Okay, so once you're in the air, we want to rotate the cowl flaps to trail and pull the throttles back a bit. The mixtures need to come back as well. I'm going to turn head tracking off at this point because I want to be able to actually control the aeroplane and see where I'm going. So I want to pull the mixtures back to auto lean, and I want to pull the propellers back a bit as well and trim the aeroplane out. So I'm putting in a bootload of elevator trim. Let's give it a bit more power. Right, getting there. So let's have a look at it in the air. It's a pretty aeroplane, isn't it? So apparently troop drops happened at about 800 feet. So let's have a look. We are at just coming up to 1200, so we're a little bit high. So we'll turn back around. Just straightening up the drone, sorry, not the drone camera, the head tracking. So turning back around towards the airfield, and we'll do a simulated troop drop over the airfield, shall we? Just for a bit of fun. So pull the throttles back a bit. Of course, this relies on me seeing the airfield. There we go, just found it. I don't know this area very well around Duxford, so if I lose sight of the airfield, we're in trouble. Okay, let's keep an eye on the altitude. I'm not sure of airfield elevation here, so I'll go to 1,000 feet. And we'll do it from there. Just having a look at the vertical speed there to try and get it somewhere near level. Okay, so I've not tried this yet. This is going to be new to me too. So we flip the cover up open. Now I think, yeah, that will put the soldiers ready to jump or to begin jumping, so we'll watch it from one side. So we'll get over the airfield and we'll see how this works. It's going to be good fun, isn't it? How are we doing? We're getting there. Okay, I'm going to move the camera around then. And we're going to go and flip the switch and watch from outside, and there they go. Very cool. Okay, so that's simulating the ropes for the... Oh, you can see how they've done this, can't you? It's actually tied to the aircraft position. They're not free floating, but it's still pretty cool. So if we maintain straightforward flight, you can kind of simulate them dropping. Okay. Right, so then if we flip the switch back and recover and look back outside, I think the door just stays open at this point. There's not much we can do with that. Once you've dropped them, you've dropped them. Okay, so should we circle back for an approach? Wrong button. So what we're going to do is circle around this way. Do need to be careful in the C-47, just as with the DC-3. We have got a turn coordinator down here. It does have a tendency to slip alarmingly. So you need to be mindful of that. So we're going to get the gear back down. Let's go and watch that happen. Center the view up. So flaps to their mid position. Keep an eye on the airspeed. Yep, airspeed is good. Full flaps. Quite difficult to see the marked grass strip from here, isn't it? Yeah, here we go, we can see it now, look. So we're a little bit high, a little bit fast, but that's fine. Smoothly does it. Okay, so flaps can come back up. And we'll taxi in. Okay, should we go and park over against the fence? Okay, parking brake on. So obviously we could go through and switch all the switches off in the cockpit. I don't think there's much value in doing that in the video, but there we go. That's the C-47 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I guess we could have all kinds of fun setting up troop drop simulations with whole groups of these in the air at once, doing that mission, I guess. Obviously the reason it's been released is because it is the anniversary of D-Day this week. So yeah, it's a really nice gesture from Asobo to commemorate the event and release this aircraft. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. and I'll see you again soon. I will put a link in the video to the C-47 startup routine or checklist that I've modified to suit how it's been developed now. So yeah, hopefully that will be useful for you. See you again soon. Take care.